I can promise you there will be lots of emotions today. There will be hate, there will be disgust, there will be confusion and frustration, but there will also be love, but served with a nice dose of shame and guilt, because today we are talking about the Eagles. And yeah, one of the biggest American bands of the 70s, and I guess a lot of people are still scratching their heads how this could happen and what it all means and what it says about America in the 70s and pop culture. Um, I think the band is still around, playing the revival circuit with the remaining members. And yeah, today we will do a full album ranking. We are Rock Kaput. I'm Oliver,
I'm Alex.
and we have our guest, our close friend at our side, Alexis from the USA. Hello, Alex.
Hello, thank you for having me here.
Yeah,
Welcome.
thank you for doing this with us. Pretty excited. And before we start, as usual, make sure to hit thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and be ready to comment on the Eagles and what you think about them and what's your take on the band. So to get this thing rolling, I think we will start with our personal history with the band. So Alexis, why don't you start?
All right, well, and I appreciate you having me here. And if you didn't have an American on this panel, I'd be upset, right? Because this is our group, and I say that because we have three musical genres that are unique to America, and we're created here, right? We have blues, but that's a bunch of old guys strumming on a guitar and complaining about things. We have jazz. That's a bunch of musicians noodling on instruments. Who needs that? But we have yacht rock, and that is the perfect blend of watered down rock and cocaine. That's America, folks. Um, and I say that jokingly because I love them, and yacht rock is sort of like hair metal. It's a term that some don't like, but there's a reason for it, right? The Eagles have some yacht rock in them. I've always known their music, right? I grew up, I've said this before, I was born in 69. So in the 70s, my formative years, the radio was always on. Their first album comes out in 72. You can't escape their songs. I didn't really, know them, identify them, but I heard it. And then in the 80s, I'm inundated with Don Henley and Glenn Frey solo stuff. But it really was only the last decade that I got into the Eagles as I started to fill out my collection. I did like their music. I started to pick up some stuff on vinyl. This set comes out in 2013, I think, which is their sixth original album. So I got that. And then I went down the rabbit hole and really became a big fan. I love their music. Don Henley has become one of my favorite singers. I think his vocals are great. And I love the mix, right? So it's country and it's folk and it's rock. I like all of that. And when they do it right, they do it better than anybody. So, started out just knowing their music and grew into loving their music.
Okay. So Alex, what's
So, my take on the Eagles. I only knew some radio hits before going into this. I don't own a cowboy hat or anything, and the Eagles have never been kind of an interesting band for me that I wanted to explore. But I think I wanted to do this show for several reasons. So, number one is I have nothing against country rock. I'm a big Neil Young fan. I also like Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young and the Byrds, and I think this is also a little bit in this vein, at least there when they started out. Yeah, and I just wanted to give them an honest chance, and yeah, let's see how that turned out. So, and I always find it interesting also. I mean, maybe some things I did not like, and I find it always very interesting by fans or critics what they don't like and why. It's also an interesting topic to discuss. So, and I'm really certainly not here to piss off Eagles fans or anything, but I will try. No, just kidding.
Okay, so first of all, um, for American viewers, in Germany, the Eagles, and we will learn more about that, never were that big. They had one big hit and one big album here, and that was Hotel California, the single and the album. They did way better in our neighboring country in the Netherlands, surprisingly, where almost every album went to the top of the charts. But certainly a band that's big in America is also at least known over here. So I don't really know when I first heard of the Eagles, but I yeah, I caught the name of the band, and I realized that they were huge. Um, I thought they were older. I think that was kind of the name that made me think they are from the 60s or something like that. Um, but yeah, I yeah, I really took a dive into their material like 15, 16 years ago, listened to a couple of their albums and their songs, learned about their history, and yeah, just last year in my vacation, I read two books about them, Mick Wall's Dark Desert Highway, and of course Don Felder's autobiography Heaven and Hell. So I like their music, but even more, I think they are fascinating, and I like to think about the Eagles and what what they mean, and because I think they are a band full of contradictions, and that makes them kind of fascinating for me. So I when we did start this channel, I knew that I wanted to do a show about the Eagles, and yeah, here it is, and I hope it will be as interesting as I hope it will be. So that's my take on the Eagles. Before we start, let's just uh, do a little run uh, through their history, because I think that's kind of essential, and we have it out of the way when we talk about the album. So, Alex, when I get to the albums, you can throw in your factoids and sales numbers and stuff. So. The Eagles were founded in the early 70s, and the two main guys, of course, were Glenn Frey and Don Henley. Glenn Frey came from Detroit. He had started playing guitar with Bob Seger, then relocated to Los Angeles, where he met Don Henley, who came from Texas, also had played in some bands there, and they met around the Troubadour. A club in LA where lots of this many musicians of the Southern Californian folk rock, country rock scene hung out during that time, like Jackson Browne, Linda Ronstadt, Flying Burrito Brothers, and both played in the band of Linda Ronstadt. And but when she asked them to become constant members, they both declined, and because they wanted to start their own band, and they found two companions in Randy Meisner from the band Poco, and Bernie Ladden, who was formerly in the Flying Burrito Brothers. And when they started as kind of a democratic band where each member contributed to the songwriting and would sing their own songs. So they were kind of equals in the band. Their debut album came out in 1972 um, and was moderately successful, I think, Alexis.
Yeah. So Billboard US Top 200 albums got to number 22, and it did go platinum. And then singles, it had Take It Easy got to number 12, and Witchy Woman got to number 9. Peaceful Easy Feeling got to 22. So pretty good debut.
Yeah, right. So, and yeah, of course, 1 year later they released their second album, and they had lofty plans for it, because they decided it should become a kind of a concept album around the idea of musicians as kind of outlaws. And they put it out, and yeah, it was disappointing sales wise.
Yeah, they took a step back. So this was debut got to 22. This only got to 41 on the Billboard 200. It had Tequila Sunrise as a number 64 song on the charts. It did eventually go 2 times platinum, though, but initially not the successful follow-up for sure.
Yeah, right. And Glenn Fry and Don Henley, I think that's the time when the idea of the band as a kind of democratic union of equals kind of crumbled because Glenn Fry and Don Henley were very ambitious. And yeah, they took the reins in their hands and built a bond and started yeah, to push the other two guys kind of to the fringes, and took songwriting in their own hands. They were dissatisfied with Bernie Ledden, who was a country guy and wanted to do more country, and they wanted to go more mainstream rock. Um, they had troubles with their producer Glyn Johns from England, who had produced the Rolling Stones, for example, a huge producer who didn't really see them as a rock band. And so they finished the production of their third album On the Border in the USA with Bill Simzik, and brought Don Felder into the band, who was a friend of Bernie Ledden. They learned to play the guitar together, and he was a more rocking guitar player. So they thought that he yeah, would lead them more in this direction, and that of course in the long run would piss Bernie Ledden off. So there was trouble from the almost from the start, you could say. So what did On the Border do?
So that on the Billboard 200 got to number 17. It is 2 times platinum, and the singles already gone got to 32. James Dean 77, but the third single was the big one. Best of My Love was their first of 5 number 1 songs. And I just want to interject when you talk about Fry and Henley. We said this off camera at one point. You know, they're sort of parallel to Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley and Kiss, right? They became the voters in the band.
Yeah, I think there are several parallels between the Eagles and Kiss. It's after you mentioned that, I thought about it, and maybe we will get into this. So, okay, On the Border, Don Felder becomes a member of the band. They do the next album, which is One of These Nights. Um, Also pretty successful, I think.
Big time. This broke them as international superstars. So this was their first number 1 album, 4 times platinum. Uh, and the German charts finally charted to 49. And then the title track went to number 1, Lion Eyes went to number 2, and Take It to the Limit went to number 4. So this was when they really became one of the biggest bands around.
Yeah. But the tensions in the band rose and rose. There was lots of turmoil, and Don Henley and Glenn Fry behaved like those dictators. So then they were always on tour doing cocaine and partying and doing drugs. So yeah, that certainly didn't really help. Um, After the album, Bernie Ledden went went out. They brought in Joe Walsh, another guitar player who was a more rocking player, and they did Hotel California, which is their most well-known album, and did huge numbers.
For sure. Again, number 1 album. As of right now, 28 million sold, at 28 times platinum in the States, right? Double diamond. Worldwide, 42 million copies of that album. In Germany, got to number 3. It is 1 times platinum there. And Hotel California, number 1 song. Life in the Fast Lane got to number 11. So yeah, this was the album that made them as big as anybody.
Yeah, but it also broke them because it took them 2 years to do their last album, which they did. Yeah, scratching their eyes out, and Randy Meisner was fired or declined, so they brought in Timothy B. Schmidt. Did the last album, they hated each other, did another tour, and then called it quits before reuniting in the 90s. And yeah, they are still around touring. Glenn Frey isn't with us anymore. He died in 2016. But he was there for their last album, a huge double album they released in 2007, which was also a huge success even in Germany. I think it went to number 2 here. Yeah, but so that's the history. That's enough numbers for now, I think. So let's get into our ranking. Alexis, start with your number 7.
My number 7 was pretty simple. It's Long Road Out of Eden, their final album from 2007. I will give numbers on this quickly, though, because I'm stunned by this. It got to number 1 here in the States. It went 7 times platinum here in 2007, which I think is a crazy number. But I guess all these rabid Eagles fans were waiting for something, after all this time. And even in Germany, got to number 2 and went gold. So the standard edition is 20 songs and 90 minutes. That's a lot of music. But somebody like me, who is insane, had to buy the deluxe version, which adds 2 more songs, 22 songs, and 98 minutes. I love the Eagles, but man, that's a lot. And I hadn't played this album for a while until this topic came up. And I played it multiple times. And I'm not going to go too deep into this because I'd rather talk about the original 6. I liked a lot of it. A lot of it was just okay. A lot of it I found unnecessary. I'm not going to revisit this that often. If I do a shuffle of all their music, this works beautifully. But as its own, 20 or 22 songs, it's just a lot. So I like it, but I'm not going to revisit it versus playing those original 6 albums.
Okay, so my number 7 is also Long Road Out of Eden, the first without Don Felder. Yeah, it's kind of their a very long radio rock perfection album with a lot of mediocre tracks. I still don't really understand why they had to issue this double album. So I don't think any Eagles fan needs so many tracks, or I really don't know. And I'm not a big fan of long albums anyway. So if you do this, it must be really, really good to convince me. I mean, this reason alone is a reason for me to place this album last, because I don't want to listen to so many Eagles tracks in a row unless they are really all great, and they are really not. So I like some of the songs. I think it starts out really nice. I like How Long and Busy Being Fabulous. They're great radio staples. But yeah, I don't care that much for the rest. And yeah, this was also a no-brainer for me that this is my number 7.
Yeah, I will chime right in because it's my last place album as well. I have to admit that I was kind of surprised by, yeah, how good it is for a band that it's been away that long. I think you don't really hear that much of a gap, but that also speaks to how commercial their style was from the start, right? So this very cleanly sterile, ballady country rock, yeah, was there wasn't just there. I guess there was not really much room to develop it over that period of time because it was already perfected in the 70s. So they just continued what they started, but at the same time, it sounds even more sterile than it did in the 70s, because now with all the studio trickery, it's even more polished, and the ambience of the 70s is just missing. So even when the songs are there, it all sounds and the album was marketed with Walmart, I think. So it was sold at the Walmart chains, which speaks to the careerist ideas of Henley and Fry. I mean, this has nothing to do with rock anymore. They were telling how great it is that their fans will get a double album for just $12. Yeah, it's kind of weird to hear something like that from a band that thinks they are or sees themselves as rockers, right? The song you mentioned, Alex, How Long, is actually an old one, which they already played live in the 70s. That's why it's a standout track. I think there are a couple of nice songs on here, but this thing is way too long and becomes boring. Yeah, it feels like a victory lap by these guys who are celebrating themselves. And yeah, it's, I don't know. It's probably nice that it's out there, but you don't really have to listen to it. It's my opinion. Okay, so Alexis, give us your number 6.
Okay, so before I get in that, I forgot to give those important stat, but this ties in everything, and that is the overall sale. So 200 million albums worldwide, insane. 100 million just in the States, and 40 million for the greatest hits. And I say that because as I do the next 6, I'm going to spotlight the singles initially because that is what this band is known for, or their hits. Yeah. So there's a lot of sappy songs that they have, and those are certainly don't make me like that album more. I will say I don't skip them if I'm playing the whole album, but they're not songs that I would select and play individually, right? So number 6 is going to be the last of the original 6, The Long Run, right, from 1979. Uh, so this actually was going to be a double album, but everybody was so burnt out and fried and kind of disjointed, and so they scrapped that idea and put together what is this disc, which has that sound of a band falling apart to me. So Heartache Tonight, first single, uh, it's a song that Glenn Fry sings. I think the vocal performance is great. I really like this track, the title track, a Don Henley vocal. I love the opening notes. Don comes in kind of cool and confident. Great way to start the album. And then the last single was I Can't Tell You Why. Uh, Not a song I love. This is where we're talking about this kind of lackluster to me. The deep cuts are like In the City, I think is very good. That's a Joe Walsh vocal. The Disco Stranger, I think, is an interesting song, a little different for them. Those Shoes, another one that Henley has a vocal performance on. I think Don sounds a little angry on this, a little aggression. I like that. Um, Talk Box by Joe is on this. Deep cuts that I don't like. King of Hollywood, 6.5 minutes, kind of mundane, seems filler to me. Teenage Jail never did anything for me. The Greeks Don't Want No Freaks, Henley vocal. It sounds like a Jay Gower song to me. And the Sad Cafe is one that I could definitely do without. So this was an easy one for me to put at the bottom of the original 6.
Okay, so my number 6 is actually the same album. It is The Long Run from 1979. Yeah, it has some strong songs, but for the most part, I'm not big on it. So I like the title track. It's a pretty good R&B song, nice leads. I don't like Disco Strangler or Teenage Jail. I think, yeah, they don't do anything for me. I absolutely hate Heartache Tonight. I think this is absolutely horrible rock and roll, try at rock and roll with the stomp, super formulaic writing. I don't know. To me, I don't really like this type of. I'm a big rock and roll guy. I like this rootsy rock normally, but for some reason, I don't like this track at all. So I don't know. It has a certain vibe. I don't know. It's not for me. The Greeks don't want no freaks. Sounds. Did you compare it to?
Jay Giles band.
Ah,
Jake
okay.
Wells.
I was reminded of Elvis Costello, like a song like "Pump It
Mm.
Up." So yeah, it's kind of sounded new wavy. I thought it's kind of funny, a very unusual song for the Eagles, very strange song. And I can't tell you why. Kind of an R&B song that reminded me on the Miracles or a band like that, and sung by this new member Timothy B. Schmidt. Yeah, it's also a little bit strange, but I quite like that one. But and I also, yeah, Sad Cafe is okay, but all in all, yeah, I don't like that much on this album, except for the title track. So this is my number six.
Okay. So my number six is The Long Run. And but I have to say that I would have loved to place this one higher, and initially I had it way higher because somehow I like it. And I like these big failures and these albums by bands in crisis, right? And I mean, I this must have been horrible. This recording, everybody talks about it as like torture, being in the studio together, and took them 2 years to record this thing. I think they wasted millions on that album, being in one room, playing the same songs over and over again to make them sound right. And I think for that, there are a couple of tracks I really like. The Long Run to me is just okay. For me, I can tell you why. For me, is the standout track by Timothy B. Schmidt. Um, for me, it's the best song on that album. Also, like In the City by Joe Walsh, and you already mentioned the other ones. I also thought that the Greeks don't want no freaks is weird, and I thought about British new wave bands. Um, so this one came out in 79. So this also always I thought it came out later because to me this sounds completely 80s. This whole thing, and I think we will talk about that more because I think these yacht rock bands kind of yeah beckoned this decade of crass commercialism in the 70s, and Fry and Henley to me are the ultimate Wall Street boomer guys, for some reason, even when they painted themselves as these American country boys. Um, and I totally love the Sad Cafe, and I have a little story about that one because I listened to that album a couple of months ago. Sometimes when I go to sleep, I put my headphones in and I listen to an album when I go to sleep, and usually I fall asleep with the headphones still in. And the song "The Sad Cafe," uh, it 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 crept into my dreams, and I heard the song in my dreams, and then I woke up and I realized that song really exists because it was still playing, and I was, oh my god, because I thought it was so. I think it's amazing because it has this kind of atmosphere that I love, and it totally fit this waking up in the middle of the night with this faint song playing, right? So yeah, but it's a very mixed bag, this album, and yeah, I guess they were happy when they called it quits shortly afterwards.
All right. So I'm next, but just a rebuttal to what you said. I too hear that song when I sleep, but in my nightmares, not my dreams. And I will say, we talk about being disjointed and how long it took to record this. It was also in 5 different studios. So this really was just, they shouldn't have done it really. It was just a hodgepodge project so we'll move on. My number 5 is On the Border. So This is their third album from 1974. Go in order of the singles. Already Gone, uh, Glenn Frey on vocals. I like that. And again, I will say Henley is my guy. I can take Glenn Frey vocals. I like Don Henley, but this song works for me. A good rocker. One of my favorite of his tracks. But the next single, James Dean, I don't like. I've never liked it. I just find it annoying for some reason. And Best of My Love is just okay. You know, this is where that kind of sappy ballad, ambrosia kind of category song comes in that doesn't necessarily work for me. Deep tracks I do like. You Never Cry Like a Lover, Henley on vocals, love this one. Kind of a heavier side of Best of My Love to me. Midnight Flyer, which is Randy on vocals. I think that's a nice country romp. It's fun, it's upbeat. And My Man, which is Alberni, I think is a cool song. That's a heartfelt tribute to two of his friends that he lost, and that's Dwayne Allman and Graham Parsons. And then On the Border, I think is another good song, kind of a gritty soul rock song. One of my favorites on the album. But Old 55, which is a Tom Waits pen song, not really for me. And Is It True, another all Randy tune, again, doesn't really work for me. So those drag the album down and put it at number 5 for me.
Okay. So my number 5 is Desperado from 1973. When I kind of prepared for this show, I learned that this is a very beloved album by Eagles fans. And I didn't really understand why. So Frey and Henley started their songwriting partnership with this one. Yeah, and became kind of the band leaders, and they directed the band away from country, right? And to rock. So I did not like Dooley Dalton. They have that banjo in the background, just loud enough that it annoys me. I don't like that. And there's also an instrumental called Dooley Dalton. That's not for me. Sorry. And 21 is, it's also not for me. Annoying bluegrass banjo shit. That's you can chase me around with this. That's not really the type of music I like. Tequila Sunrise is okay. Desperado is a well executed power ballad, but also not really for me. Don't like the lyrics. It's kind of similar to the debut in many ways, but I don't get this whole concept, the lyrics, the song, this outcast desperado story. It really doesn't reach me, so I had to put this very very low. I don't know, this whole concept did not work, and I don't really connect to any of the songs really. So that's my number 5.
I will say you just pissed off all of America by saying you don't like Desperado. That's an anthem here.
I'm sorry.
That's why I'm here to keep the peace.
Okay, so my number 5 is On the Border. And I like this album. Starts with Already Gone, and I forgot to mention it when talking about The Long Run and Heartache Tonight, because I think Glyn Johns was spot on when he said that they are not a rock band, because every time they do this old-timey rock and roll, I think they sound completely out of place with this kind of music. They are not rocking. They sound like a cover band, a bad cover band, basically. So Already Gone is to be fair, it's one of their better rocking tracks, but I don't like it that much. But I think my favorite track on here is My Man, and I think that all the Bernie Ladden songs are great on their albums. I think they made a huge mistake when they kicked him out, because okay, you don't like banjo playing, but he brought some kind of authenticity to the band. I think he has a nice voice. And I really like every song he wrote for them. So, and My Man is one of his best, I think. On the Border is probably one of the songs that when you hear Don Henley talking about the legacy of the Eagles, he always says that they were kind of critical, in their lyrics and messaging about social developments or stuff like that. And I think he gives himself way too much credit for his lyrics. Um, I don't know where he gets that because I think most of the lyrics are pretty vague in that department. Um, and Yeah, and I think it's funny, and that is one of the contradictions because a lot of the things that the Eagles were critical of are things that they were guilty of themselves, right? Um, when they're talking about superficiality and how capitalism rules everything, I mean, they clearly profited off of that and made it a business, right? Pissed their friends off, kicked them out of the bands, and screwed them over for their money and stuff like that. So yeah, that's one of the things where I think that they are just kind of dishonest when talking about their role as a rock band. Um, James Dean, terrible, absolutely terrible song. I love Old 55. Um, like you can't destroy that track even if you try hard. Um, Good Day in Hell, I think is nice. I think Is It True is also nice. I like Randy Meisner's vocals. Um, Best of My Love. I have a kind of a soft spot for those cheesy soft rock ballads of the 70s, but this one is even too boring for me. So yeah, On the Border is my number five.
One good point that you keep bringing up is, that they're a band of the people, right? But yet they're rich.
Just
And
like just like Donald Trump is of the people, right?
don't get me started. Let's not go down that path. Um, but they're now doing this Sphere gigs in Vegas, right? You got to sell your house to afford a ticket. So, yeah, mixed messages for sure. All right. So, and one other thing I want to mention is no matter what you think of the song, good, bad, or indifferent, to me anyway, all the production, no matter who was doing it, is fantastic. But that goes along with this kind of music, right? Bands like Ambrosia, that I mentioned, or Steely Dan. Production was always a high element in this. Um, so number four, I know a lot of people have this higher, and this was the one that broke them, but I have it here, One of These Nights. So the title track is Don Henley. I love this track. I love the bass intro. Um, I love the harmony vocals from Randy on this. Killer guitar solo by Don. This song really just works for me, I think. Lion Eyes, again, another Glenn Frey song. It's okay to me. I know it was a big hit for them. It's all right. Take It to the Limit. This is another one that some days I like and some days it annoys me. I don't know, what to say about this. It's a grandiose ballad, and maybe that's what bugs me if I'm not in the right mood. Deep cuts are like Too Many Hands. That's a Randy vocal. I think it's a good moody rocker. Uh, Journey of the Sorcerer, right? So this is a Bernie instrumental. This is fantastic, and this was the beginning to the end. The two guys, and we know who we're talking about, didn't really want this on. They balked at that, and he gets mad, and so I like it. I think it's placed well. I really like it. Rolling Stone called it psychedelic bluegrass, which I think is kind of a cool term. And Visions, that's a Felder vocal. I like that, a good rocker. But the deep cuts I don't like. Hollywood Waltz does nothing for me. After the Thrill is gone, this is another one that's just too sappy for me. I Wish You Peace, perhaps my least of all Eagles songs. Not a fan. So those couple make it come in at number four.
Okay. So my number four is probably very weird for many people is Hotel California from 1976. It's yeah, my take is probably a bit unusual. So I think the production is great. It sounds really amazing. But again, I don't really connect with most of the songs. So I mean, the title track, of course, it is iconic. Yeah, I like it. I've always liked it, even though it is very weird in a way. It's a reggae song, and they have this classical guitar solo in the mid of it, but it is very iconic. New Kid is okay. I like Life in the Fast Lane. It's a really cool riff. Wasted Time is kind of a Billy Joel like power ballad. It's also not that great to me. Victim of Love is okay. I don't like Try and Live Again. Yeah, that's kind of my problem with it. Yeah, I like a lot of similar music, but with the Eagles, I don't have the connection is sometimes there and most of the times not. I mean, there are really songs that I really love that come a little bit later. Also, Hotel California, yes. At the moment, not so much anymore because I've listened to it so many times. But yeah, this is not really an album that I want to go back to. So
If
that's
you thought we lost American audience when you said something about Desperado, we're really in trouble now.
I don't want to offend anybody. I
No,
really
hey,
tried and listened to all the stuff.
we're here to give our honest opinion, and so I appreciate
So
that, man. It's
yeah.
we listen to we hear things all differently. It's all good.
Okay, so let's go to war. Hotel California is
Oh
my
no,
war.
2 against 1.
um, yeah, I have to say that except for their newest one, I like their albums. I like not everything on it, and sometimes they annoy me, and too much of it in one sitting works like a sleeping pill sometimes. So I like this album. But yeah, at this point, this album, I think here's when I mentioned that they can get sterile and clinical and overly perfect, and I think this album is yeah, very symptomatic in that for that opinion. Um, Hotel California is the song is a masterpiece. I love that kind of. I think the Eagles. There's always they are singing about. They have these beautiful harmonies. They painted themselves as friends and brothers, at least in the beginning. Um, uh, Songs about love that housewives could croon and dream about cuddling up with Glenn Fry. Um, but there was always this weird undercurrent in the band, and I think that started right in the beginning. I will get to that later. And Hotel California is, I mean, about the title tracks, there are so many theories what it's about. That it's about satanic rituals, and it's all in there. I totally get why you could think that, and I think the band plays with that kind of stuff very consciously, right? Um, so I think that's fascinating about them. Um, but song-wise, I think other albums are better. I like New Kid in Town. Life in the Fast Lane is okay to me. It's another case of that I don't like their rockers that much, but this is a better one. I totally love Wasted Time because I think Don Henley is completely sells this one. It's very dramatic and heartfelt. Um, Victim of Love, yeah, is pretty mid. I like Pretty Mates All in a Row, and that's another one. I haven't paid too much attention to the lyrics, but there's a movie called Pretty Mates All in a Row by Roger Vadim, a French filmmaker, and it's about I think a college professor played by Rock Hudson, and he has affairs with his female students, and they get killed off one by one. It's a dark comedy from the '60s. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but this also plays into this thing with this band always having this kind of dark side to them. Um, Try and Love Again, The Last Resort. I like these kind of tracks by them. I also like the Sad Cafe, as I mentioned before. But yeah, this album um, doesn't live up to its opener, in my opinion. So it's my number four.
All right. So for my number three, uh, Desperado. So their second album from 1973. The lead off track single was Tequila Sunrise. This is another Glenn vocal song that it's just okay to me. Outlaw Man, I think was this in my notes. I think it was the second single, but didn't even chart. Um, Another Glenn vocal. This has that outlaw country feel. Some nice electric piano. I like this song, and while it was not a single, it became one of their signature songs. And as we know, Alex loves this Desperado. Uh, I I think this is a fantastic song. Beautiful, heartfelt vocals. Great. Uh, Duel and Dalton. I do like this song. I'd like country. There's some bluegrass in my collection. So I get though, if you're not into that, this is not the Eagles that you want, right? Totally understand that. I like it. I like 21. That's all a Bernie song. I like the bluegrass romp, the banjo, mandolin, all works for me. Out of Control. I like that as an upbeat country rocker. Uh, I think what's the most interesting song to me on here is that closer where they combine Doolin Dalton and Desperado, and I just think that's a beautiful blend and mix and an interesting idea to end the album on. I certain kind of fool, not for me. Saturday night, a little, that lighter sleepy side, not a big fan, but minor points on this one. This was one that my two, three, and four kind of bounced around and are still interchangeable. But for today, this ended up at three.
Okay. So my number three is their debut from 1972, The Eagles. I really like this one. I like Take It Easy. I think it's a very cool song. I like Witchy Woman, Peaceful Easy Feeling. Most of what I said is beautiful. This is really an album I can listen to front to back, and I really like it. It has a great sequencing, and Oliver knows this. I typically like records from this time period for some reason, from the early 70s. And yeah, I think this record is really, really beautiful. I mean, some also have some annoying banjo, but it is less annoying than on other records. And it's a very cohesive album. Yeah, yeah, with very likable songs. And what I also feel, I mean, I don't know as much about the history as you guys, but I feel on this album the song choices and also the style choices feel less calculated. I think later they always thought about, which style is selling more, which I have that feeling that they think about such things a lot on later records, and this one just came out naturally what they liked, maybe. And yeah, I think this is a beautiful album and I like it.
So my number three is the debut. I have to say something that I didn't mention up until now. What always drives me crazy about this band is their name, because they are called Eagles and not the Eagles. But every time you talk about them, you say the Eagles, right? And I don't know, is that a stroke of genius or is it stupid that they call themselves Eagles? Because when you mention them, it's the Eagles because you like the Eagles. You don't say I like Eagles, right? Yeah, and they are telling the story that they went for the photo shoot for the cover, they went out into the desert and took peyote and were tripping and how weird is that? That I mean, those were the times, right? When your label supported something like that and sent you out and here have some drugs and trip out and make some cool photos. I mean, that's just yeah, the 70s for you.
It's the American way.
Yeah, right. And I had this lower before, but I like every single song on this album, and because I like overthinking the Eagles so much, I have a little thing for the opener, "Take It Easy," beautiful song, and they are singing "Take it easy. Don't let the sound of your own wheels make you crazy," right? So to me, in that, and I think the lyrics are by Jackson Brown because they took it away from him because he couldn't finish it. But to me, that kind of shows what guys those Fry and Henley were, because there's calculation behind taking it easy, right? So they know their wheels are driving them crazy because they are these weird and wired guys who want to make it big. So they have to remind themselves all the time that they have to take it easy. But that's not what guys taking it easy, you know, like when I think of take it easy, I think of the dude from Big Lebowski, right? He doesn't have any wheels that drive him crazy. He's just taking it easy, right? Because that's how he is. But this is the dark undercurrents because these guys are psychos, right? They didn't really kill anybody, although Don Henley had some run-ins with the law, with some orgies in his house and stuff like that. And um, when doing business, they went over corpses, right? So yeah, but this is a beautiful album, like all the Bernie tracks on here. I think there's not a weak song on this one. Yeah, Witchy Woman, Chug All Night, another one of their rockers I don't like. Uh, Most of Us Are Sad. It's a bit of a sleeping pill, but I still like it. Nightingale is great. Train Leaves Here This Morning. Take the Devil to me is a highlight. Early Bird would be better if there wasn't this cheap uh, bird song in there that sounds completely mechanic. Would be better if it was made today, but the song still is beautiful. Peaceful Easy Feeling is nice, but it's not one of my favorite ballads of them. Ends nice with Trying. So yeah, promising start for this band. Beautiful cover artwork. My number 3.
Right. And that is my number 2. And many great points have been made. I'll just run over what I like. The single, so Take It Easy to me, not only a great opening track, but this is their initial statement of here's who we are. And I think that carried forward throughout their career. Witchy Woman, I love that track. Another cool Henley vocal, great harmonies on that. Peaceful Easy Feeling, Take It or Leave It. Deep Cuts, I do like Chug All Night for a Glenn Frey tune. Nightingale, nice upbeat track. I agree. Take the Devil, probably my favorite song on the album. I think that's great. That's all Randy, right? Love that. Uh, Most of Us Are Sad. Don't need it. And Train Leaves Us Here This Morning kind of reminds me of the lesser side of the Birds, a sleepy kind of country tune. So, but minor quibbles for a great debut and just a great album in general.
Nice. Good. So my number 2 is On the Border from 1974. Yeah, they have many styles on this one. It's kind of a transitional album for them, but I kind of like that. So Don Felder played on 2 tracks, I think, and then became an Eagle, right?
Yes.
And yeah, and I like both songs on which he plays. Already Gone is one of my all-time favorite Eagles songs. I think it's great. I also like Good Day in Hell. That's the other one. And yeah, and I think they had some trouble with producer Glyn Johns in London, right? And then they went back to California. So Best of My Love is an okay song. You Never Cry Like a Lover is a quite good R&B song. I also like My Man, this tribute to Duane Allman and Graham Parson. I don't like Midnight Flyer at all. It's an annoying country version of an annoying bluegrass song with banjo playing. Not for me. Yeah, I like the title track. It's about Watergate, right? And an attempt in sounding like an R&B band, like the Temptations, and I think it is pretty cool. So a lot of times, not always, I like this R&B approach by the Eagles for some reason. I think they're good at it. But yeah, I hate James Dean. I totally agree what you said before, Alex. And yeah, Old 55 is, I mean, I'm a Tom Waits fan. This song is great, of course. Even the Eagles version is good. So I don't mind this being on here. And yeah, Tom Waits, everybody, you know this probably. He hates the Eagles, but he still liked the royalties he got for this song. So yeah, I like the production. Already Gone is great. It's such a high point for me alone that I had to place this very high. And there are also other cool tracks. So this is my number two.
Okay. So my number two is Desperado. And I think it's in contrast to Alex. I think this totally works as a concept album. I think it's well rounded. Um, I like how the Doodle and Dalton kind of ties it together with the reprises and stuff. Um, I like 21. Um, I like Out of Control, Tequila Sunrise, and Desperado. They are both beautiful to me. Think they are two of the best songs they ever did. And I think this is fine from front to back. It's on par with the debut, just a little more refined. And yeah, it's kind of sad that this album flopped, and I don't know. Maybe there's a kind of alternate universe where this one becomes a success, and this whole band history would go different, right? Um, I mean, probably these business like assholes were. That was just who Henley and Fry were, and probably would have went that way anyway. But yeah, I think they were a cool collective with Meisner and Bernie Ledden. I think they brought something to the table, and each of them had their own style. And yeah, kind of sad that Fry and Henley thought that they had to become the dictators of that band and decide everything and push everyone to the fringes. So yeah, but great album.
All right. Before I get to my number one, I have one question, one hot take. And the question is, Alex, when are we going to do our top 10 banjo songs? Because I need to prepare for that.
Yeah.
And two, Kiss and Eagles both having their issues in the late 70s. What should have happened is Gene and Paul hook up with Don and Glenn, and what a super group that would have been, right? So
Yeah.
anyway, now to get things back on track and to save your audience, the USA, we're going with the only thing that could be number one, and that is Hotel California. So I think a big X factor here is Joe Walsh coming into the band, a very interesting component, and definitely adds to this. The first single, New Kid in Town, I could do it without that. That to me is the only thing that keeps us from being a 10. Hotel California, though, to me is a masterpiece, a song that I can ask my wife. I play over and over and over, and she gets annoyed. But there's a reason. It's a 6 minutes and 30 seconds of perfection. I think just the feel, the vocals, the guitar, the lyrics, everything about it. And just throw one more stat out: 2.2 billion plays on Spotify. So we're obsessed with this song, right? To me, love it. Life in the Fast Lane, I like that. A great opening riff. I think that's a cool track. Uh, Wasted Time, slow and heartfelt, but this is kind of the ballad that I like, and Henley on vocals, obviously. Victim of Love, another song I think is great. Try and Love, All Randy, love that as well. Uh, the Last Resort, now here's the opposite of the Sad Cafe. So this is 7 minutes and 25 seconds of an epic ballad that really, really works for me. This allows Henley to be the singer, the crooner, the balladeer, whatever you want to say. I think that's great. Pretty Maids is another song that's just okay for me, but minor quibbles on an album that I think is just fantastic, and I never ever get tired of listening to the album, and certainly that title track.
Okay. So my number 9 is One of These Nights from 1975.
Number one. You said number 9.
Number 1. Did I say number 9? Sorry, my number 1.
No problem.
So, One of These Nights from 1975. Yeah, it was their big breakthrough. They became rock stars with this, I suppose. Yeah, I really like this album. I like the title track. It was a number 1 song. R&B, disco influenced number, very entertaining, and a rocking guitar by Don. Yeah, Lion Eyes is a super commercial country ballad sung by Glenn. I think it's okay. I think it's well written. Yeah, Hollywood Waltz, I like that one. What is the greatest, maybe the greatest moment for me on the Eagles, maybe also weird take, but my favorite song actually is After the Thrill Is Gone. A song inspired by B.B. King's The Thrill Is Gone. I also like that one. I also like the lyrics. What do you do when your dreams come true? Great singing by Don Henley, especially in the bridge. So Frey and Henley share vocals on this one, and a great solo by Don Felder. So I think this is really my favorite Eagles song. So yeah. That's also why I had to place this high. Yeah, and I actually like, even though I don't like banjo very much, I like the song Journey of the Sorcerer. It's a banjo instrumental, but it's very interesting. And I've read, maybe I've heard this before. It was later used by the BBC as the title track for Hitchhiker's Guide Through the Galaxy, which is really a cool song. A little bit unfitting to the album, but I still like it, and it actually reminds me stylistically a little bit on the soundtrack of the TV sci-fi series Firefly, if you know that. I think that might be inspired by this one. Do you know that title melody? I think it's kind of similar, and I'm a big fan of that series. I love it. So yeah, Take It to the Limit. I don't like that one very much. Visions is okay. I Wish You Peace is also more or less okay. But yeah, I really like the production of this album and the whole R&B feel. And it's really a very interesting album for them. And yeah, and it contains my favorite Eagles song. So that's why this became my number 1, yeah. And in the end, I also wanted to add, I feel a little bit guilty for giving my weird opinions on the Eagles here, because I don't really think I managed to get the whole vibe of this band, to really understand them and appreciate the essence of them. So, but I think maybe it's one of those bands when it had to click sometime, and then you get it. So I think I'm still on some kind of surface level to really really understand them. So
Now, look, as I said earlier, it took me 40 some years till I really became a fan, right? I knew their music and yeah,
yeah,
so that's happened. Sometimes it just one day you'll wake up and you'll say, I love banjo, you know? Who knows?
yeah. Who knows? Who knows? That's right. That's right. Yeah,
My number one is also one of these nights. And before I dive into that, I think the Eagles, if you know them, they are a little bit hard to love, right?
Mm.
Because the more you know about that band, uh, we like to think of musicians and their albums as kind of statements from the heart, right? And but these guys were always calculated in everything they were doing. And I mean they wrote beautiful harmonies and but then you hear what they were thinking and doing to their friends and stuff like that and how they were living and how they were treating women and stuff like that and you think well that's all just a pose, right? Peaceful, easy feeling. You were assholes, man. So yeah, and so yeah, I don't love the Eagles, but think they are interesting, and I like many songs that they did, but this is not a band to really love, right? But I do love the title track of that one. It's my favorite Eagles song. It has all the ingredients of 70s music I like. It's like Alex said, a little bit of R&B. It has a bit of that disco feel. Um, Beautiful harmonies. What the Eagles were pulling those off regularly. So great start of the album. Um, Probably it's as a cohesive statements, I think the debut and Desperado are probably better, but the high points on this album are higher for me. So that's the reason why I put it on number one. Too Many Hands. I love that one. I have no problem with Hollywood Waltz. It's not one of their greatest songs, but I like it. Also like Journey of the Sorcerer. It's another yeah, completely out of the blue. I mean, it's something they never did, and only Bernie Ledden could do that. So yeah, sad that he had to leave the band after that album. Also pretty weird because he suggested to them that Don Felder uh, could be the new guy, right? So he basically picked his replacement and suggested him, and Felder and he they knew each other, right? Felder learned a lot of stuff from Ladden when they were still young because they grew up together in Florida. So yeah, another tragic note to that band. I love Lying Eyes. Um, I also like it because it fits into my overthinking of the band because it's to me it's a pretty cynical and misogynistic song that that Fry sings with his dreamy voice, and doing All American Boy and singing about uh, women who are cheating and only do it for the money. And I mean, yeah, what a weird take to sing a ballad about that one. Um, I love Take It to the Limit. I think Rennie Meisner is awesome on that song. Beautiful. The live version is amazing, gives me goosebumps. So I like that one. Visions is okay. I also love After the Thrill Is Gone, and I Wish You Peace is yeah, probably a smaller song, but it's another Bernie track that I really like. And like I said before, I think he always brought something to the table. Maybe not as spectacular, but I like his voice, so that's a nice way to end this album. And certainly the only album you could ever place as number one in an Eagles ranking, right? Nice. So I hope we could clear that up. Any last words on the Eagles?
Yeah, I just like to say because we keep doing this comparison, but I think it's important that this Kiss and this Eagles thing that Don Henley and Paul Stanley were sort of the same, right? They were kind of the quiet guys, but behind the scenes, you knew they were dicks. Whereas Glenn and Gene were just assholes. But in the case of Gene, he named an album that, right? So he'll come out and say it, but you would say that to Glenn, and he would say, "Who, me?" So yeah, I think it's interesting that you bring up a great point. Is this music on its own versus what you would watch when you watch the Eagles documentary? It doesn't match up. This peaceful, easy feeling. Where was that within the band? Having said that, they did make incredible music. They've absolutely made their mark on uh, sales, right? That the few will ever obtain. Great music, interesting band. I'm glad we did this exercise, and it was great to hear your takes on everything too, coming at it from totally different time periods and perspectives and interests. So thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was good to have you here and bring the only true perspective on that band, right? As an American. So, but I want to add something to that Kiss comparison because I think there's another parallel because both of those bands got their big break not by a studio album. Kiss did it with a live album, and the Eagles did it with their first Best Of, right? That was I mean, they were successful, more successful than Kiss, but that was the album that did astronomical numbers for them, and really, I think it gave Hotel California a huge push.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
100%. Yeah, and Alex and I were talking off camera. You know, why? Well, how can they sell more than the Beatles and the Stones and all of this stuff? And it was just a matter of that greatest hits started to snowball and snowball, and it became a thing where, especially in America, everybody just felt they had to buy an Eagles greatest hits, right? If everyone else has it, I have to have it. So I'm not saying that people bought it and hate their music, but I think they had a lot of sales that were just, I have to have this album because, and they certainly benefited from that. It's a great collection of songs, but there are other greatest hits packages where the songs are as good or better, but this is the one that took off.
yeah, yeah. So that was the definitive statement on the Eagles. We can now lay the band to rest and move on to something else. I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe a little bit band a little bit out of our usual spectrum, but we want to talk about all kinds of music on here, and I think the Eagles are worth recognizing. Um, yeah, try them out. Tell us what you think in the comments. Give us your thumbs up. And of course, subscribe to our channel. We appreciate it. And I hope we will see you next time. Thank you, Alex, again for sharing this time with us. And we will see you soon. I'm pretty sure about that. So take it easy.